Welcome to the Kindness Project, the podcast designed to share stories of kindness and share how kindness can make positive change in our world, one small act at a time. This time on the Kindness Project, Pigs in Blankets Club, Satsuma Appreciation, and we've got part 2 of our interview with Mike Dickson, author of Our Generous Gene. Welcome to the early morning edition of the Kindness Project. How you doing?
I'm tired.
Oh, so much. You know what? As we record this, it's start December, okay, and life is busy at the minute, isn't it, for all of us? And so the only opportunity we had to record this was at 6:30 in the morning, and I'm feeling it, to be honest. Charlotte, are you?
Yup.
But let me introduce you formally. I am joined by a girl who is so accident prone, she'd injure herself even if she was covered in bubble wrap. It's Charlotte Dames.
It's not true.
It is a bit true.
And I'm joined by a man who doesn't think it's Christmas until December 1st.
It's not. It's definitely not.
No, once you got all of the holidays out the way, then it's Christmas.
Well, you know what? You know what I like? I like the fact that Mum kept sneaking decorations in.
Yeah.
Slowly at the start of December, at the start of November, and just
Might have even been the end of October.
it might have been, but the pinnacle of that Christmas decoration add-in was when she put a giant headless reindeer on a giant bodiless reindeer on the side of the wall, and as I walked in, it sung "Lonely This Christmas" to me. That was a bit weird.
Oh, stop.
And that was in August.
No, that was only last month.
Last month. But now it is December.
Yeah.
And we have got some awesome Christmas editions of the Kindness Project coming up.
To churn out, we've got.
You know what? You know what's weird? I love recording these with you, right?
Yeah.
I love recording these with you. Doing it at 7 o'clock in the morning feels a bit like hard work.
Too much.
So,
Have me breakfast and a cup of tea.
I know.
Maybe another hour's sleep.
I know, so do I. But if I don't deliver, Russell, my editor, and your editor, Russell, will just beat us with a stick. So we've got to do it.
I ended the weekend decapitated.
We are doing this under duress, listeners. So, can you let our listeners know where they can get in touch with us?
Sure.
After you drunk your tea. Have your tea first. Don't worry about that. Do you want a bit of breakfast? While our listeners wait for you to turn to get in touch.
Cheerios and a bowl.
Yeah.
Other foods.
Oh, you know what question of the podcast we need to do in the future that we haven't done? What's your favourite breakfast?
Cheese and ham toasty.
Yeah, and as it's Christmas, I might go for pigs in blankets.
Pigs and blankets for breakfast.
Yeah, big time. It's 2 components of an English breakfast, so you could just wrap the sausages in the. But
if you put the egg in there as well.
True.
Wrapped it all up together and put it between 2 slices of bread.
Oh, don't even get me started. There in a lot of the lunch places, right, in London, I'm walking past, and because it's Christmas now, they're advertising pigs under blanket sandwiches, right? That's a bacon and sausage sandwich. That is not a pig. That pig under blanket. You can't put a pig under blanket. That means nothing. And I should know because I know my pigs in blankets.
He eats them every year, so I'm sure it's the only thing he eats in private.
What? I haven't got a secret stash of pigs in blankets.
You want to run that by me again?
All right, maybe I have.
Yeah,
but we don't talk about it.
We don't talk about it. First rule of the secret stash of pigs in blankets, you don't talk about the secret stash of pigs in blankets.
First rule of Pig in Blanket Club. You don't talk about Pig in Blanket Club. Shall we? You know what? I think we should start a Pigs in Blanket Appreciation Society.
Oh no, this is like the Clementine.
Satsuma.
There we go.
Yeah, I am.
The Cacti Appreciation Society.
I've got a tendency of setting up Facebook groups every now and again just for my own amusement. And a few years ago, I set up the Satsuma Appreciation Society on Facebook, and it's actually got members. Take a look. I mean, I've never ever added anything apart from, I think, one photo of me with Satsuma skin eyebrows because me and Mummy were just having a laugh one night. But yeah, have a look. And you may see the Pigs in Blankets Appreciation Society on there pretty soon.
Maybe.
Can you let... We've got into our stride now, Charlotte. It didn't take long.
Sidetracked.
We got sidetracked into talking about Pig in Blanket Club. First rule of Pig in Blanket Club. Don't talk about Pigs in Blanket Club. Okay, do you want to let people know how they can get in touch with us?
Twitter, Ola Kindness.
Okay.
Facebook, you go into the search bar thingy and you just kind of put...
Pigs in Blanket Fight Club.
Just trying to think of what it is. If it's Holla Kindness.
It's Holla Kindness.
Yeah, and then the email is holla@thekindnessproject.co.uk.
And this week's question of the podcast, as it's Christmas, is... Are you prepared to join Pigs in Blankets Club? It's only a subscription of £1,250 a year and you get unlimited pigs in blankets. Of course, that's not the question. Morning!
Morning.
Prosecco Queen. Oh, I think somebody's ready for their first Christmas dinner, don't you? That's Cassie, my wife, by the way, who's come down for a breakfast and found an impromptu recording session of the Kindness Project. So let me tell you about the question of the podcast, which you can email us answers to in. So this week's question of the podcast is, what makes you most proud about your kids, spouse, parents, or any other member of your family? So last week we were talking about pride in yourself. This week we're talking about what makes you proud about other people. So we look forward to receiving your answers at all the usual channels.
Ooh.
Well, you're just going to make some random noises at this point. Yes. Ooh. It's the one where you sound like the Churchill dog. Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
All right, let's move on to Kindness News.
Yo.
'Tis the time for another Kindness News, my lady.
Oh, really, my lady?
'Tis it medieval? 'Tis it medieval edition?
No, it's Mum edition.
Is it medieval mum edition?
Nope.
Just mum?
Just Mum.
Is it Victorian mother edition?
Nope.
Is it modern mother edition?
It's just mums.
Mums are. I reckon mums are probably pretty kind.
Yeah.
Because they need to be, because they're nurturing by nature,
But this
aren't
isn't about
they? Most mums.
mums being kind. It's about people being kind to mums.
Oh, kindness for mums.
For mums.
Oh, cool. Tell us about that.
Right, so the first one is about a man. It's called A Man's Touching Act of Kindness to Mother Goes Viral. A man who held a stranger's sleeping baby while the young mother filled out her paperwork in a doctor's waiting room has been praised for his touching act of kindness. Natasha Wilson, who captured the sweet moment in the US state of Alabama, described the incident on Facebook, pointing out the touching act between the white man and the black woman. Racism is still very real in our society today, but this man gave me hope and a sweet memory I'll never forget. According to Miss Wilson's account, the man asked the mother from across the room if she would like him to hold her baby while she filled out her forms. The woman smiled and said that would be great. Once he was holding the baby, the man rocked and loved on the baby like he was his, according to Miss Wilson, who posted details of the incident last week. If you know this man, tell him what an amazing person he is, Miss Wilson wrote on Facebook. The man was later identified as Joe Hale and the woman as Jade West. I felt relieved and appreciated at the fact that he wanted to help. He seemed really genuine, West told Good Morning America on Monday. He was talking to him as if he was his own grandchild and had known him his whole life. He was just the sweetest. Wilson said she wished people would see people for people and not colour. That's a lot of people in one sentence.
People for people, not colour. Yeah.
For a stranger, a white man at that, asking a young black mother if he could hold her baby to help her out. Then the way he loved on that baby like it was his own. It almost puts me to tears every time I think about the love you could see radiate from him.
Love it. Absolutely love it.
I got one more.
But you know what? Helping somebody out when they're, especially a mum of a baby, do something that we take for granted when we haven't got babies around is a really nice thing to do, isn't it? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's really good.
Yeah. I think people are quite cautious about offering help to mums because they don't want to seem like they're encroaching on that mum's space, but I think there's some value in just offering to help, and then the mum can say no or not if she wants to. What other awesome people are helping out mums?
Okay, so daughter arrange surprise acts of kindness for a mother with breast cancer.
Okay.
Here are a few more things important. I'm pretty sure that's supposed to say there.
Here are a few things more important in life than love and friendship, especially in times of need, which is why one daughter has gone to extraordinary lengths to bring joy to her mother, who has stage 4 breast cancer. Ellie Lee, aged 59, was diagnosed with the illness last year. Secretly, her daughter, Wei Lo Lee, arranged for her best friend of 40 years, known as Auntie Ling, to travel all the way from Birmingham, I'm assuming it's Alabama, and not Birmingham, from California for a surprise visit. Auntie Ling, who isn't a blood relation but a close family friend, made the trip using air miles gifted to her by her own son Kenson, who is saving for a trip to Europe but gave her the ticket without hesitation. Why Lo Lee told Huffington Post UK she wanted to bring happiness to her mum's life following what had been multiple rounds of gruelling chemotherapy. Her and Auntie Lee met 4 decades ago as factory girls in Hong Kong, where as teenagers they were working to help their families make ends meet and put food on the table. Wei Lo also took her mum to Santorini in Greece for a holiday and arranged for another friend, Auntie Lan, and her family to make a surprise visit from Hong Kong. They spent 3 days together in Oxfordshire and the Cotswolds sightseeing. Yeah, Cotswolds. We haven't been to the Cotswolds that much, have we? We need to go to the Cotswolds. She told HuffPost UK, I've been planning a series of surprises for Mum ever since she was diagnosed last year, mainly to cheer her up. Help her take her mind off things and create some happy memories. There's not much I can do other than be there in terms of hospital appointments and be a dutiful daughter. Her brother, Wei Ching Lee, also ran the Birmingham Half Marathon in aid of cancer research last year. What a lovely thing to do, and I agree entirely with that sentiment. If you can't create some memories for your mum, what can you do?
Sleep.
Or your dad, if you fancy it, Charlotte.
I'll consider the offer.
All right, thank you. So last week we had the first part of our interview with Mike Dickson. That was really good, wasn't it?
Oh, yep.
I don't know why you do the Churchill dog impression every week. But this week we're going to continue to talk to Mike. If you haven't heard the first part of the interview, please go back in time and take a look at last week's podcast. But we're going to talk more about Our Generous Gene, which is Mike's new project, and get him to answer some of the questions of the podcast.
Oh, yup.
I think the other interesting thing, and again, we're both lucky to get to talk and think for a living. Sort of other people aren't that fortunate, but certainly it's what you learn, isn't it? As you say, you did that conference not only to set the conference up, but just as an opportunity to listen to people that you can learn from, and that's. People want to be listened to, but there's also a lot that people can teach.
When I started the Rainmaker Foundation, I wrote to Desmond Tutu, Archbishop Desmond Tutu, and asked him to become the patron.
Okay.
And he agreed.
Okay.
So that was great. So then he came to London and he gave a talk. And one of his great things was, you can do things that I can't do. I can do things that you can't do. So together we can do a lot more. It's this principle of Ubuntu. You know, I can be the best I can be through you.
Well, this is. I mean, it goes back to the Dawkins thing because that selfish gene argument. I actually think if you look at evolution, we achieve more together than we do separately. So actually, I think the survival of the fittest is about being kinder to each other, because people who get to work together, and again, it's something David Hamilton talks about in his book. Kindness is contagious because of the fact that we have the opportunity to work together to get more stuff done than being separate. So from an evolutionary perspective, kindness is. It should be the kindness gene, shouldn't it? It should be,
It should be. And so, you know, it's interesting. I was, you know, just this weekend, I was in the Highlands of Scotland this week, and we went out on a walk, and parked car, went out and walked, came back drenched. It was like completely and utterly soaked. And when we got back to the car park, there were 4 of us, and there was this car in the car park with its window down.
Okay.
The driver's window down. And the 2 people I was with, without even thinking about it, they went and got a black plastic bag out of our car and they covered the window. So that the seat wouldn't go wet, and then they left. And that was just like...
It's just the right thing to do, isn't it?
Nobody's ever going to know. The bloke will come back to the car and say, you know, it's not...
Well, now it's been on the podcast, he might find out. You never know. And you talk in the book about growing your generous gene. If somebody's looking to become more kind, where do they start?
Well, start under... You know, I think you start from your family and friends and work outwards. You go and find out how everybody is. And you come alongside them and you help them if you can, if they need help. And so you start from your immediate circle of family and friends, find out how they are. And you'll find, you know, that they're, you know, half of them are ill and the other half have lost their jobs, or they're stressed out of their minds about work, or their children have, you know, got problems or harming themselves. And, you know, there's a lot of, you know already that at least 25% of the population have mental health problems. So there's enough around. So it goes to reason that, you know, 25% of your friends are going to have mental health challenges, depressed or something. So I think number one is start with your family and friends, and then you can get a grip and go out and help other people. And for example, in one of my other things, you know, I went to India. I go to India every now and then. I went to India about 4 years ago, and I went to visit a charity that feeds 1.5 million children every day with a hot meal at school. So this charity was set up by the financial director of Emphasis and by the head of the Hare Krishnas. And they feed 1.5 million children with a hot meal every day, which means that the children go to school. And means that they grow, which means they learn. But to feed one child with a hot meal every day for a year costs £7.50. So, and I've done this in talks. Actually, it's quite interesting. I did a talk with financial advisors one day, and they all came up to me, about 300 of them, the daughters, and they all came up and said, you know, wonderful, wonderful work you do, wonderful story, what a wonderful story, you know, really, really inspirational behaviour. And then I did it 2 weeks later to the staff at Google HQ, and they were all lolling around, you know, and I did the same story, you know, it's £7.50 to feed a child for a year. It's the price of 2 cappuccinos. And they all came up to me afterwards. All of them were up. They all came up to me and said, that was absolutely inspirational. Where can we find the website? They were at it.
It's that action, isn't it? Absolutely.
And that's the really important thing, you know, whether it's covering up a window of a car. You know,
some financial advisors and planners are quite generous, Mike, sometimes. We're an exception to the rule.
Well, actually, I know this because one of my own gurus died recently, and he started St James's Place.
Okay.
And, you will know this, but there were 3 of them started St James.
Yeah.
And they had sort of 3 O-levels, 6 O-levels between them.
Yeah.
But they had one sheet business plan.
Yeah.
One sheet of paper. And the bottom was that all partners at St James's Place should give to charities. That was number 11 on the big book.
Yeah.
And that grew and grew and grew. Mike Wilson was a lovely man. So I do know that.
Well, it's really interesting. One of our values as a business is do well, do good. Because I think if you run a business, you've got an obligation to give back. You've been lucky enough to be in a situation where you've had the opportunity to build something. There's got to be a net positive contribution to society, and part of this is sort of having the time to do podcasts, and part of it is just seeing what we do. I love it, absolutely love it.
Neither you or I ever have any idea of the impact we have. So if you're doing this and it's taking part of your work and you're blending, melding with somebody else, and who knows what impact you're going to have on other people.
Yeah, I think I've said this before on the podcast. My motivation to do this is to make my kids proud. So I do. Charlotte isn't here today, but I do it with Charlotte, and it's really interesting because she's the most generous person I know. So she hasn't started charities, but she's just so. Like, I look at her every day and go, you've just got such a kind heart. It's incredible. What's your favourite story or stories of generosity? Where do you start?
Thousands of them.
There's a few in the book as well, right?
I think one of my very favourite stories, because it's so personal, I suppose, is the story of my mother's gardener, Terry. So my mother and father lived in a village in Somerset, and they had this gardener called Terry, and he wasn't the best gardener in the world, but he was a local. And he helped my father with the garden. Then my father died, and then he came up and he did the garden while my mother was there and helped her. And then she got older and older and older, and eventually she sort of entered her late 80s and 90s, and she needed help, and she lived alone in this perfectly reasonable little house in Somerset Village. And anyway, Terry, who's now been with us for about 25 years, and hardly ever been out of the village, only to go to Wincanton races, every single day, he went up to make sure my mother was all right in the evening.
Love it.
And he went up, so we paid him to the garden, and he went up and he'd, change the light bulb, put the television on the right channel, make sure she had a cup of tea and whatever, despite the fact she had carers and so on. He went up every single day until she died, and sometimes twice a day. And we're talking about 4 or 5 years. And during the time this was going on, I said to him, Terry, you really must, you're doing more than, you're paid to do. We really must give you some more money. And he refused. So I went, no, it's all right, Mr. Dickson, I'll do that. That's all right. And so.
How old was Terry when your mum was in his 90s?
50 when she died. So but for the last 5 years, he went up, and if it wasn't going up, it'd be like because he was going to a wedding or something.
Gotcha.
And we were just staggered by the generosity of a man who basically lived in a village. He was in charge of the cricket team of the local gardens and all the rest of it, and we were just staggered by his love and his generosity
to his commitment.
This elderly woman as she got older and older and older. And crankier. And so I think, I tell the story because I'm awash with more heroic stories, of people who, there's a wonderful woman that we know we went to Bhutan with, who has just written a book called The Business Case for Peace, which has 25 ways of creating a more peaceful world in it.
Okay.
She's been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize 4 times, I think. She's just wonderful. She is it's a privilege to be with her.
I tell you what I find interesting, though, that, and it goes back to that everyday act of kindness, isn't it? That thing where just checking on somebody, making sure they're all right, making them a cup of tea, that can have such an impact on somebody's life. And as you say, it's happening every single day. So a lot of the more ambitious, bolder acts of kindness are great, but people can just do the small things. You know, I was talking to somebody the other day, and I said that one of the things that I try and do, and I embarrass the kids when I do it on the tube, is just smile at other people. And I haven't been thrown off a tube train yet, and I've had no complaints so far. But just sort of, you know, just be happy, you know, just try and express your, and I've tried to persuade the kids to do it, and they're not having any of it, so it's just me grinning inanely on a tube.
Well, they're probably hoping you'll grow out of it.
I won't. So tell me a little bit, I know you spoke a little bit about portfolio behaviour in the past. How do you split your time? Is it a third of your year, or does it work out differently?
No, I mean, you know, we've planned next year already.
Okay.
So we know what work we're going to do.
Okay.
With whom.
Okay.
And there's a couple more to batten down this month. And we plan where we're going to go. I've planned that I'm going to make a big effort to give more talks about what is the point of view.
Okay.
So I'll be doing a lot of talks next year and trying to persuade people to be useful.
Yeah.
We're travelling.
So where are you off to next year?
We're going to Australia and New Zealand.
Okay.
We're going to New Zealand. I mean, most of this is sort of because we want to go.
Yeah.
But when we go, we are able, because of our knowledge, to visit NGOs in those countries. And I'm able to give a couple of speeches about the importance of being useful.
Yeah.
And in Australia, I'll do one to individuals, and private individuals and banks, customers, and one to companies.
Yeah.
Because companies, have huge resources to be useful. And it's not just, when you think of an average business, now everybody thinks they should be involved with their communities and doing something useful. But they've got wonderful resources. They've got their people, their knowledge.
Yeah.
They're not supposed to be running around painting garden centres. They're supposed to be doing things useful to help people who are changing the world.
Yeah.
And so they've got great resources, contacts,
networks,
suppliers. So that's another one that I'm doing. But basically, and it's there's one major trip a year and a few other ones, and then working with interest. We're doing another Futures conference next year.
Okay.
But we're also doing one for young people.
Yeah.
And also starting a philanthropy service for someone. So there's a lot
going on.
But it's all enjoyable.
Yeah.
Give or take the odd stress.
Yeah.
And we are usually working almost always with people we like.
Yeah, which is, it's that if you're sort of doing what you love, you never work a day in your life sort of theory, isn't it? It's not on my question list, but I'm curious.
Go on.
What's the most unusual answer to the question, what's the point of view you've ever had?
What is the point of view?
Yeah. So when because I'm thinking about that question, thinking I'm not convinced I'd have a really definitive answer, because I think it changes for me.
Well, of course, the answer is that it does change.
Okay.
And that most people have no idea.
Yeah.
Because most people, we're here as in the talk. We're here for roughly 80 years if we're lucky, active and mobile.
Yeah.
26 years we spend asleep.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
15 years we spend learning how to go to school and that. So actually
The amount of time.
The amount of time we actually have to leave a legacy, Stephen Covey's thing, what is the point of life? To live, which is to look after your immediate needs and earn a living and find shelter and all that. To love, which is the need to love other people and be loved. To learn, which is the need to learn, keep learning and not close down early. And finally to leave a legacy. This is the point of giving the talk, is to say to people, actually, the purpose of life is not necessarily to build a career selling frozen food. Or never mind armaments and God knows what else. Or even run a tech company. The purpose of life is to get a grip and contribute to society and try and help people who are less fortunate than yourself and or protect the environment. In other words, you have other things to do than what you're doing at the moment. So in answer to your question, when you say what is the point of view, most people haven't got a clue.
Gotcha. But
unless they are, to be fair, their work is heavily aligned with their purpose. They run an NGO that's helping homeless people, or they're a doctor, or a heart surgeon. Where their purpose is aligned with something that's useful, a teacher, something. Then they sort of know what they're about, and that's why they chose to do it.
I wonder how many people actually ask themselves the question. It'd be interesting to see if a lot of people do or not, because I'm assuming a lot of people don't until it's until they're later in their life. I don't know. It's interesting. Let's talk technology. So we talked about the future before, and we talked about the changing world that we live in. Do you think technology is a force for good, or do you think it depends on how people use it? What are your thoughts around using communication tools that we've got now, and podcasts and web, and do you think that's genuinely a positive force, or do you think it's used for negative reasons too?
This is a day when Facebook had just lost 3 billion.
They did.
But on a more serious note, I mean, yesterday also, that young woman got up on the aeroplane in the middle.
Saw that Swedish lady,
refused to move. And it's been viewed by 6 million people. So, is it a positive? Can it be a positive force for good? Of course. I mean, it's you can find out people who are trashing the planet within 30 seconds. And you can gather campaigns to stop people doing it, and whether it's indigenous tribes or whatever.
So I've never thought about that. That freedom of data, the ability to get information about any organisation or any individual is quite interesting, isn't it? Seeing their impact.
Both ways. The good news is that we can do it. The bad news is so can the security forces.
That's true.
So we're being watched, but it does work. So for example, I can't remember, but ministers now get brought down within 12 hours. Because they're found out sending sext messages to. It's like a much more dangerous world for people to operate in our space. So can it be a good source for good? I think definitely. Can it be a source for bad? Obviously, we all know that. But either way, it doesn't work without the human contact. Needs to be personal, doesn't it? I can go on Facebook and say, "How are you, Chris?" Or I can ring you up. Or I can come and see you. And you can tell me you're having a miserable time, and I can give you a hug. And that's proper behaviour.
It's the personal side as well as that. I completely agree with that. And you mentioned, we talked about media before. What's our first step into having a bit more of a positive as opposed to negative media relationship, do you think? How can we get the media to tell better stories? Is the question in my head at the minute.
I think you need to go and see Paul Dacre of the
for him to say, you're joking, I wouldn't sell as much advertising.
Or you could start shaming people who read the Daily Mail. Maybe.
Yeah. See, so this is the interesting thing, isn't it?
But they're all as bad as each other. I mean, they're shocking.
Yeah, I mean, I get inspired by those acts of sort of seeing those acts of kindness. But the reality of it is the loudest voices shout negative news more than positive news. But yeah, it's an interesting challenge. So thank you for that. We'll find out a little bit about where people can find you in a minute. But before we do that, we have on the podcast a non-kindness related question of the podcast we ask our listeners every week. And I just want to, we're curious people. I just want to ask you a couple of non-kindness related questions. So first one is, let me give you a flavour. If you could be any character from one of your favourite books, who would you choose?
Wow. Well, I mean, it would have to be Desert Island Dick's behaviour when being William Shakespeare.
Okay.
Pretty amazing.
Okay, that would be good. Yeah. Would you pick a Shakespeare character, or would you be Shakespeare himself?
Shakespeare.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be pretty good.
One of the things I always do with Charlotte is every year we're going Saturday. Funny enough, is we go to the Globe, and we always get the standing seats, because I think that's probably as close to authentic you're gonna watch it, and I love the experience of going to the Globe. Next question: what's the best use of an egg?
What's the best use of an egg?
Is it? I can give you a few options.
Yeah, that'd be good.
So is it an omelette?
Can't phone a friend.
You could if you want, but is it an omelette? Is it boiled, or is it Cadbury's creamed, or is it something else?
It would definitely be scrambled.
Scrambled egg. Would you have toast?
Or mushrooms or toast. Yeah.
Mushroom sounds good. Sounds good. That sounds good. What's the most inspiring movie you've ever seen?
Daniel Blake.
See, I love that film, and I knew it wasn't going to end optimistically. Why did you find it so inspiring?
Because it's completely true.
Yeah, gotcha.
I've been there, and we, as an organisation, have supported charities working, a particular charity in North East of England, helping people who are on the back end of this sort of behaviour.
Yeah.
And victims of domestic violence and gang violence and so on, and also helping a charity in Liverpool is looking after, if you like, the people who've been left behind. And it is shocking, and quite often their lives are made more miserable on purpose by various governments cutting the services.
What do you do about that? Do you think people in those government departments do it intentionally, or is it part of the system?
It's all done intentionally.
Okay.
At one stage, one of the lot we supported that worked on at housing, so very, very underprivileged people. The people in social services, this has stopped now, but they were given bonuses for how many people turned out.
The incentives are wrong, aren't they? Yeah, absolutely.
So the reason why I Daniel Blake was one of the most inspiring is because it was true, and I actually made all our clients go and see it. So it wasn't, he made it. The bloke died. And the woman was on the game. The thing is, I mean, I would seriously recommend that anybody go and see it, because it just happens to be the way that millions of people in this country
live in. So it inspires to action, right? You're outraged.
And what we do, before I have my other general knowledge question, question is we, as an organisation, we always look for heroes who are doing wonderful things, whether it's whatever it is all over the world, and we support the heroes.
Yeah.
So I don't know enough about indigenous tribes in the Amazon, or trafficking, or refugees, or poverty, or I don't. But I know people who do, and it's our job to support them.
Okay, going back to the Daniel Blake thing, just interested. What do we do to change that culture? That culture of caring about people who need the support of the state. What do you do about that? Or is
you support it. You try and explain to people who meet social events that actually there is real poverty in this country, and it's true. Yeah. And that people are victims of domestic violence and don't have enough food. And all that.
It happens. Yeah.
And then you find people. Then you find people who are helping those people, and you go and help them.
Yeah, no, I love that.
In other words, you get on with it.
Yeah, you just take the action. If you could sing one song perfectly, what song would you choose?
I suspect it would probably, if I could sing as one song perfectly, it would probably be something from Fred Astaire, I suspect.
Okay, good choice.
That one, pick yourself up, dust yourself down and start all over again.
Okay.
Well, there's the other one, isn't it? When we join the Navy to see the world, when we see this all the sea.
Okay, I'm not a big Fred Astaire fan, to be honest with you. So your knowledge of the Fred Astaire songbook is good. I'm a little bit younger. What's your favourite work of art?
I suppose Pieta, I suppose, probably. Mary and the Child. So it's a red, Michelangelo, I think.
Yeah, love it. Absolutely love it. I'm off to Italy later this month, and I wasn't going to go to Milan, so we're just down the road from Milan. But the Last Supper's in Milan, and actually I'm tempted now. I saw my favourite work of art is Starry Night by Van Gogh. I was in New York last year, and I got to see it for the first time. I got so close, Mike, the security guard decided to slowly move me away to say, "You're not meant to be that close, sir." And last question.
There's one up in Cambridge as well.
Okay, great. And my last question, what's your favourite piece of trivia?
My favourite piece of trivia? Well, I suppose I can't actually identify it, but it must be football related.
Okay.
It must be football related. So for my sins, I support Fulham.
Okay.
And it's however many players they buy or sell, or however much. It's deeply trivial.
Okay. My only piece of football-related trivia is my wife's family live in Arbroath on the east coast of Scotland. And Arbroath's ground is the closest ground called Gayfield, and it's the closest ground to the sea in the entire country. It's literally on the beach. That's my piece of Scottish second league football related trivia.
Arbroath smoky country.
Oh yes, Arbroath Smokers are absolutely gorgeous. They have a sea festival every year. And it's some of the freshest seafood I've ever had. It's lovely. Thanks for joining us as a guest on the podcast, Mike. It's been brilliant. I've learned loads. Can you tell our listeners where they can find a little bit more about you?
Yes, well, we've got a website, which is basically a cover, but it's www.ourgenerousgene.com.
Okay.
That's the that, and then you can find the book on there, or you can find it on Amazon.
Yeah.
And if you get inspired to do something useful, want any help, send me an email.
Cool. Thank you very much. I've really enjoyed it.
No, it's good fun. Yeah, see what happens.
So that was the last part of Mike Dickson's interview. So that was really good, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. You want to do your Churchill dog impression again?
Oh, yup. 'Tis the end. The end is nigh.
The end is nigh. Forsooth, my liege, the end is nigh. How you doing?
I'm tired.
I know it's still early, isn't it? It's still way too early. But we are nearly at the end. But as you know, the end is never the end. The end is merely the beginning of the end, because we've got to do.
Last week's question this week, last week this week.
Okay, and last week's question was, what are you particularly proud of? What's the personal achievement you're particularly proud of? And you're looking really weirdly. Why are you looking really weirdly?
Don't know.
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? Yeah. It's a tough one. But we did have some answers. And John Cook wrote in, friend of the show. It's all from all our feedback this week has been from friends of the show.
Oh, nice.
John Cook said, successfully training and building a working partnership with a guide dog.
Nice.
It's good. Roberta White said, coming third as Businesswoman of the Year in 1989. The Land Before Time, 1989. Yeah, I mean,
that was a film about dinosaurs.
it is. That's when your mum-in-law opened her business. Competition was run by Woman Magazine. Why are you looking at me like that?
Mum-in-law, your mum-in-law.
I know, Gran for you. Russell said, our esteemed editor, who likes to beat us with sticks. Russell said, my biggest achievement this year is probably the Kindness Project. Getting out on a weekly basis has been hard at times, but we've done it week in, week out. Fist bump. Yes, boom. And the biggest achievement before that was losing 8 stone he lost for an operation. 8 stone. That is a lot, isn't it? That's a child. He lost a child for his operation. That is.
So you're going to have to lose your child to have this operation.
That's done. We are sacrificing your child for the operation. And Heidi Ball said, successfully raising a human that I'm amazingly proud of. Well, I can say the same thing, actually. I think that might be my greatest achievement. Success. Children. I might lose a child, but I'm successfully proud of raising a child. So that, my friends, as it's still super early, and as Russell Dames, you know what's weird, right? Early morning podcasting, I could get into.
Ugh.
No, you're not feeling it.
Maybe like 8 in the morning.
8 in the morning podcasting, but not
6.
Not too early. I think we got into it quite quickly though, and I don't think it's the worst episode we've ever had. I don't know if that's a high hurdle, to be honest.
I think the worst one we ever had was when we were so sleep deprived we kept talking about Barry and Beryl.
Oh, that was super funny.
I know,
that's one of my favourite episodes.
I came out of that exhausted.
I know, too many Barry and Beryls. Anyway, on that note,
Which is finally the end.
Have a lovely week, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.